Amy Thompson. Welcome to the couch
Hi.
next door.
Thank you. Thank you for having me,
Uh,
Candace.
I'm excited to have you, and I'm excited about this conversation. It's going to be, I think, really, really helpful and informative, and happy to have like your expertise and this little corner of the therapy world that you work in, and you get to inform us on that. So happy to
Yeah.
have you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All
I'm happy to
right.
be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about you. What are the things that we need to know Amy?
Okay. Well, I'm married to my husband Cole. We've been married about 18 years, I think. I was trying to count it up the other
Yeah.
day. We have two kids, a 14-year-old daughter, 8-year-old son. We live
Mm-hmm.
in Georgetown, and I have a private practice in Round Rock, Texas.
Nice. And how long have
Yeah.
you been practicing?
Oh gosh, just over 20 years. I've been a licensed therapist. Been in
Mm-hmm.
private practice about 10 of those years, 10,
Okay.
11 of those years. Yeah. Um, and that's ebbed and flowed a little bit as far as how much I
Mm-hmm.
work. Being a working mom, this is a great
Yeah.
career and profession where we can kind of make our own schedule in that way. So,
Sure.
yeah, but been doing that part time now for pretty solidly for about 6, 7 years.
Yeah, yeah. What'd you
Yeah.
do before private practice?
Oh gosh, I worked in the jail system, the
Mm,
Williamson County Jail. I'm sorry, Travis County Jail System. I was
very
at Austin Stone
nice.
Counselling Center, which is a big church in
Uh-huh.
Austin. Part
Yeah.
of their original Austin Stone counseling team. Did like a version of home health where I went into the homes of kind of low
Mm-hmm.
income families. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, lots
Okay.
of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that is kind of my world. I did a lot of juvenile justice
Did
therapy
you?
before. Well, while I was getting my hours and like early private practice, I was still sort of doing that to supplement, when you start a business,
Hmm.
you don't make
Yep.
any money. But yeah, and so I would go in the homes of kids that were on probation, and I would do
Yeah.
assessments in the jail. Yeah, I loved that world. It
Did
was
you?
so interesting.
It's a different world for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously you end up having to really work with the whole family, or at least I did, because
Yes.
so much
Yeah,
of it
for
is
sure.
not really about the kids but about what's
Yeah.
going on in the family system, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
challenging as
Yeah.
a young therapist. I mean, being in my mid-20s and trying
Yes.
to step into that
Oh,
was really challenging.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, tell everybody I loved it so much, but I couldn't make a living off of it. And my husband was not crazy about like me being out in certain parts of town at
For
certain
sure.
hours of the day.
For sure.
But I never felt unsafe. I felt like my families were always like very concerned about me, like this 20 something
I
girl
know.
that's
You're
just
so
in the
cute.
middle. Yeah. So I always felt taken care of, but he was like, I don't know, like you're there, you have an appointment at 8 p.m. It's like,
Yeah,
well, I
seriously.
mean, yeah, that you had to do that because they had school and probation meetings and, crazy. So
I know
anyway,
the
that's
things we
funny. I
do when
didn't
we're
know that.
young.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. So
Would
true.
you even consider doing that now? Probably not.
I mean, I'd have
Would
to have
you?
different hours. Um,
Yes.
I'll come
Yeah.
see you at school during school
There
hours.
you go.
I'm not going to come to your house at 8 p.m.
So did you kind of specialize in youth, working with youth, or when you were
Hmm.
early? Okay, because you're doing
Yeah.
mostly adults now, aren't you?
Yeah, and part of that is a couple reasons. I mean, now I have a teenager, so I feel like I have to be a little bit more careful working with teenagers just because I'm going to see it more from the parental side
Sure.
than, I
Yeah.
still see a few, but it's funny because a lot of my teenagers that I saw in their teen years, I still see them, but now they're like in their 20s, which I love that age. That's probably
Yes.
one of my favorite ages to
Oh
work
yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And then, as a mom, we have to change our schedule for our kids. So as my
Mm-hmm.
kids got older, they had stuff that I needed and wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
available for in
Mm-hmm.
the evening. So if you
Yep.
don't have those evening or weekend hours for teenagers, it's just harder to be
Right.
accessible to them. So
Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So I kind of switched things up, but I
Yeah.
still like working with teenagers. It's just kind of different now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you wrote in your form, and I wanted to talk to you about this, like parenting a teenager, that it like surprisingly has been
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable for you.
Yes.
I agree.
Are
I
you
am
you're
in,
having a
yes.
similar experience?
Yes. Yeah. So I want to hear, because you have a girl and I have a boy. So,
Okay.
so what, like, tell me what are some of your favorite things about
Well,
parenting a teenager?
yeah, I think we all kind of expect it to be so challenging, kind of like the
Yeah.
toddler years are. It's like the next phase of that, but that has not been my experience. I don't know if it's
Mm-hmm.
because of the temperament of my kid or the
Mm.
our environment or what it is. I couldn't tell you. There's no magic formula, but it has
Sure.
been so
Right.
enjoyable just getting to see her become her own person and become more of an
Mm.
adult. And it's
Mm-hmm.
I get to take less. I can take a step back as far as the involvement in the day to day
Yeah.
everything that she's involved. I can just let her take point on that more,
Right.
and I can
Yeah.
just kind
Figure
of
it out.
be more of a supportive role, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you're experiencing?
Yes. Yeah. And I think for me too, like I did not like the baby phase. I was not into the baby phase. And I think the more that I get to know myself, I think it's because it was hard to have a relationship with a baby.
Totally.
Right? We can't
Totally.
have conversation. And so I feel like as, you know, he's 14, so he'll be 15 in December, as he's gotten into that, like kind of like what you're saying, I get to know who he is. Like I'm seeing his personality. I'm seeing what he's really good at and how he's sort of been able to pave this path for himself that is separate from us. And I love that. Like, I love seeing the things that he's really good at that is not because of me.
Right.
It's just because
Totally.
of what he's interested in and what he's fostering in his own individual life and getting to have those conversations, getting to know him, getting to know his friends. I don't know. There's just a lot of relational things that get to happen, I think, at this stage that doesn't happen at all the stages. And, you know, there's definitely some challenging parts of it. But, you know, I think as a whole, I have also been pleasantly surprised.
I'm glad to hear that. That makes me hopeful, just like for that generation. And maybe this can change a little bit. Is your son a freshman this year in high school? Okay. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
So she's a late birthday, but, yeah, it's been really cool because like you said, there's so much I'm seeing in my daughter that like I could definitely not take credit for. It is just like who she is,
same.
who God created her to be, exactly what she's just like has interest in, or the characteristics she has that are not me at all.
Yeah,
which I really like and admire about her. It's like, oh my gosh, you're such a cool person.
Yes, I know. Yeah, and I saw that in your like. I just like you. Like you wrote that in the form. I just like her. I love her, but I also really like her. And same. Like I feel. I mean, I think lucky and blessed that I get to see that part, because I know that's not the experience for everybody. There's definitely hardships, but it's been fun. It's been a fun stage in parenting for sure. Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you have a younger as well?
Yes, I have a 10-year-old.
10-year-old, okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, I wonder if it'll be so easy with the second one.
I know.
I'm not so confident about that.
Are they super different?
I wouldn't say super different, but different enough that we'll see. I think we might have a different journey, and that's okay. Everyone gets to have their own experience, right? But Are yours pretty similar, or are they different?
They're pretty different. It's funny to see like the parts of me in each of them and then the parts of my husband in each of them, because it's not like they're a replica of one of us, you know? Right. So like my oldest, Landry, he's super laid back. Like he doesn't get excited about anything unless it's competition. He's very competitive like me. And he's also very social, which that's surprising because nobody else in our family is. We're all very much introverts, but he will go up and like chit chat with people. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, you're like, I did not teach him that.
That is not me. Right,
that was not modeled for him.
Right. But the younger one is much more like bullheaded, strong-willed, like, and much more responsible, to be honest. Like he gets his act together in the morning and he does his homework. I mean, Landry's gotten better now, but like, it's just, so it's going to be interesting, but I think he's got much more of a fiery temper. That's what I'm more worried about with him as he gets to middle school. Like, how's that going to play out? Because he's a little bit feistier than Landry is.
Okay. Well, he's in soccer, right?
Yeah, they both are. So
keep him in soccer. Just say, channel all that energy on the
exactly. Field, yeah. What about Gray? Like, what do you think? How do you think he's going to do?
You know, he's more social than Georgia, my daughter, is. And it just has more natural kind of adeptness socially and doesn't seem as shy or like self-conscious than she is. But kind of like you're saying, he's not as like, I mean, he's 8, so he's not as responsible. Right. He's not as kind of on task. She's just more like, I want to do the right thing. I want to get all my stuff done. So it'll be, I don't know if that's about age at this point as much as temperament. So we'll see. He's kind of a little more like social butterfly, knows all the kids. And we'll just have to see, which is kind of how I was growing up. So I'm like, okay, I know that. I don't really know where my daughter's path has been as much, where she's just like straight A student, follows the rules, really responsible, which is great. That's been a breeze for me as a parent, but I don't relate at all.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about how and why you got into EMDR. Because, I mean, you've
Yeah.
been in practice for a long time. You've been a therapist for years, but I know you mentioned like this is more of a recent thing that you've been doing.
Yes. You know, anyone who's known me as a therapist for any length of time would know, like, Amy avoided working with trauma. So that, which is funny because when you're a
Right.
therapist, you can't do that
Well,
really.
and you're an Enneagram 7, which we need to
Yes.
tell people. So,
Yes.
which
That's
I told
very
her
relevant.
before I told her before we started recording. I was like, that is fascinating. An Enneagram 7 as a therapist,
They
you
do
know?
exist. It's kind of a
That's
unicorn,
right.
but it does exist. Yeah, it just felt too heavy or too intense. But I mean, you do this long enough that your trauma is everywhere and to some
Yeah,
degree, and
right.
so you can't avoid it. And so I would refer out. You know, I would really focus on the talk therapy process part of it, which is still very valuable in the
Hmm.
majority of the work I do. But just as I got into, years into my practice and kind of like we talked about a little bit before, Candace, feeling a little bit like kind of stuck,
Yeah,
kind of not bored isn't the right word because that's not
right.
really accurate, but just wanting more maybe, or wanting to grow
Yeah,
or challenge myself a little bit. I just
yeah.
kind of to dip my toe because I had a season where I kind of kept referring to EMDR, current
Hmm.
clients for EMDR, and really seeing the positive impact. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And man, it's like, it just was the right time where it
Mm,
just seemed to click. I think maybe my experience level at that point or something, I just was like, this is an amazing tool. And I think it
mm,
can very easily integrate into my practice I have now
yeah.
and would give me that kind of revitalization of what I'm doing. And it really has. And it's been really powerful.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, even though like initially you thought, nope, this is not going to be my demographic, it really opened your eyes to,
Mm-hmm.
to open up your practice in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
kind of like what we're talking about with personal life, that felt stable enough. You get out of those
Mm-hmm.
younger years, which is
Yeah.
it's just so involving for you as a mom, or
Mm,
I had a little bit more mental capacity and emotional
yeah.
capacity to kind of like, okay, let's branch out a little bit and just
Mm-hmm.
it started. And I've been really conservative about, I'm going to take this slow. I'm not going in. Like I got trained 2.5,
Mm-hmm.
almost 3 years ago, have been doing it and, incorporating it into my practice over the last 2.5 years. And just now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to like finish that last piece of getting
Yeah.
certified,
Yeah.
so it's also kind of like drinking from a what do you call that? A fire
Oh,
hydrant,
right,
the amount
right.
of content. And so it's like, I have to like chew on this, apply this, because trauma is
Mm-hmm.
so complex, as we'll get into. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's been a slow process and I've appreciated that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I like that you said, because this is so true of therapy, that, you get into this practice not thinking that you're going to specialize in trauma, but you get these
Exactly.
clients in here and you're like, oh
Oh,
crap, there's a lot of trauma here. And they don't even really know it. And yeah, we'll dive into that. But I mean, there's usually some trauma somewhere. And so just even
yes.
knowing and being informed in that particular way,
Yes.
and I again think it's so interesting that realization has sort of paved this new path for your work and how you're able to implement that. So
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Okay. Well, we want to get to know you a little bit better
Okay.
and more. So what is your rant for us
Okay.
today, Amy?
Can I be candid about? I told Candace I was not sure if I want to feel about this.
Yeah. Well,
I
because she's a
couldn't land.
7. So like, it's hard
Yes.
to rant when you're a 7.
Well, it's hard. And it's hard to pick up any one topic because at any moment it's something very different
Yeah.
that I could feel very passionate about. But I
Right.
would say the most present and long standing in the moment is the battle with perimenopause. So let's just talk about
Yes.
that for a
Amen.
second.
Yes.
Okay. You
Yeah.
get that? You're there? You are on the fringe
Yes.
of that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So what is your rant about
What is my
perimenopause?
rant?
I
I
mean,
think
there's probably a lot of rants
where do I want to
attached to that
go?
stage. Right.
So many directions.
Yeah.
I think I just want to rant about like, I wish I had known more about it before it started. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a lot of information now, which is really great. I am
Yes.
45, so I'm kind of in the midst of that. But in my early 40s, I think I was starting to change. Things were changing my
Yeah.
body, and I didn't
Yeah.
have any information around that. And so I
Sure.
had to do kind of a lot of my own research around it and
Mm.
find new doctors and all the things. And it's still kind of a process of tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. So, but I think, yeah, that's kind of a rant. If you're in your mid 30s or
Mm-hmm.
into your early 40s and you start to feel funky, know that there's a lot of information out there now that our
Yeah.
bodies really
Yeah.
change a lot. So I just wish I'd had that to even anticipate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You change so drastically. I mean, we were talking about earlier, even my personality, I feel like has changed a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and not all necessarily for the worse, but it's just, you don't know what's happening and you don't know why. And everything else has stayed static and stable.
Same.
So it's
Yeah.
like, right. So it's like,
yeah.
what is this? Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of my rant. I feel like you've got some things you want to contribute to that, maybe.
Well, okay. So when I think, I mean, my friends and I definitely have this conversation, and there has been frustration in the medical community, like, because, you know, people going to their doctors, friends, clients, self, going to the doctor and saying, I'm experiencing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll either say, well, it's too early for perimenopause, because maybe I'm 43. So my friends are also 43. So they may say, well, that's too early. You shouldn't be doing that. But they're like, but I don't feel right. Like, I don't feel right. There's got to be something going on. And so feeling dismissed, that either, you need to get more sleep, or you need to drink more water. And sure, yeah, probably. All the things all the time. But that can't just be the only answer. And so that also can be frustrating in women's health, that it's not always, you know, there's not a whole lot of investigating that goes on unless we push and advocate, or, like you're talking about, get specialized doctors that know this stuff inside and out, which that's what I keep hearing over and over again. Like, find a doctor that gets it.
Yes.
Because you don't have to feel this way. There is a way to feel better and to feel more equipped to deal with this stage of life.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
There's so much more information out there, and absolutely, just from the get-go, just find someone. Like, if you don't know, ask your doctor about it. If they seem a little bit clunky about their answers towards you, and they're not really directive and informative and advocating for you, find a new one. There's enough out there now. There's enough stuff, information online that is really helpful. So yeah,
it's good. I know the thing that for me has stood out recently. I've been having hot flashes, I feel like, since my mid 30s.
Have you?
But like the night sweats. Oh my gosh! Like, and I don't know. It just feels disgusting, honestly.
It really does.
It feels so gross. Yes. I just feel so gross.
Yes. I don't know if you had this experience. I had that same experience when I was nursing both of my kids. Like that hormonal disruption.
Yes.
I remember getting that, like,
for
super
sure,
sweaty at night. And then, then it goes away, right? And then it comes back and you're like, wait, I'm having like a trauma response to the fact that my body's responding. Right. But but you're 40, so you don't have any context for what's happening in your body.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it just this heat just comes. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like volcano from inside.
Yeah.
I didn't know
That's
I had
a really good
me.
description. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just like you were saying too, I mean, just the changes. I mean, even personality changes. Our bodies are changing, and it does seem like it. Not that it happens overnight, but it feels like all of a sudden
it does.
Your body's betraying you.
Yes. How dare it?
Like, what is happening?
Yeah, you don't really feel comfortable in your own skin in a lot of ways, because all the things that you've been doing that have been healthy choices for your life no longer work. Or right, and it's so much more than even like the hot button, like hot flashes, night sweats, all that. It's also just like fatigue, brain fog, depression, irritability. It's kind of like long-term PMS.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Your libido crashes, things like that you are kind of more what feel like subset symptoms. They're not always the top row, whatever. And I was having more of those at the beginning. And so it's like, am I depressed? Do I have autoimmune? Like, what's happening? There's so many things that it could be. You don't even need to go there as an option first.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I noticed in your form too, like you mentioned, knowing what your body needs, right? Like your body needs something, especially when we're talking about like exercise. And that's something this year specifically that I've started to notice about myself too. Like, and I think we have to be much more attuned to what our body is needing, and not just, well, this is what I've always done. And so I just need to keep doing that. Well, it's either not working, or I just don't like doing that anymore.
Right. Both
Probably more the latter. Yeah. I don't do that anymore.
I just don't care anymore as much. Yeah.
And I think that is the advantage to this stage of life too. I just don't care as much.
Right. That is a major plus. You kind of lose your,
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. for sure.
No, I'm
Yeah.
similar. I've always been kind of a workout girl. I've loved it as much for mental, emotional health, really
Yeah.
equally than physical health as
Same.
well. But
Mm-hmm.
and like would be kind of one of those like kind of hardcore, not hardcore like I'm a gym craze or
Mm-hmm.
something, but like if I'm going to work out, I'm going to make it count. So I want to work out
Yeah.
hard, like high intensity, right?
Yes.
Really tax my body. And now it's like I have to slow that way down because I'm going to pay for that in a different kind of way later,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
really having to learn, and
Right.
as a 7, we're not super great about being present in our own body. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's next? Let's
Yeah.
keep moving, exciting
Right.
adventure. And so, yeah, really having to kind of learn to tune in daily around how
Yeah.
does my body feel? How did I
Right.
sleep?
Right.
What does my energy look like?
So
Right?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a good
Yeah.
practice, really. I
It
mean, we're being forced to
is.
do it, but
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have
Mm-hmm.
learned it earlier, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think just being able to frame our expectations going into this stage, right? Because I feel like that was surprising to me. I've always been a runner, and,
Okay.
I will run halves usually once a year. I've done a
Wow.
couple of marathons, which last one I did, I made a goal. I'm going to do one more marathon or another marathon before I turn 40. And in the middle of it, I was like, what am I doing? This is idiotic. Why am I doing this to my body? Yes. Yeah. 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 So at that point I was like, well, I'm never doing this again. But it's like what you're talking about. When I train, like I used to love it, but I know that if I start doing that kind of stuff to my body again, I'm not, it's unsustainable at this
Yep.
point. Like I get injured, then I
Yep.
can't do anything. And so it feels like it's a lot more of like a slower sort of game when we're talking about exercise at this stage, because I want to take care of my body so that I can move it, because I feel better when I'm moving it. But if I do it too hard, like
Yes.
you're talking about, like I used to, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to be out for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Yeah.
No.
We pay for it later.
Yeah. I would much rather be able to walk, and,
Yes.
and do that rather than, okay, well, I can run 13 miles, but I'm hurt now. So
Right.
I can't do it for 2 months.
Everything hurts, even just sitting here. Yeah. Which, this is kind of not to be a natural segue, but I think that is so true about just our bodies in general and awareness of just where we are, even emotionally and mentally, because
Sure. Yeah.
just pace of life, different stages of life, we're not always like really tuned in to our own mental, emotional, and physical experience. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and there's so many distractions. We could go down a whole nother rant about internet and
Yeah.
social media and always on our phones kind of thing, and just how distracted we constantly are.
Right.
And there's parts of our brain that are really affected by that. And so I think it's just a great practice in general of like, as I tune into how my body's feeling, like, okay, well, that's just natural for me to next check in where I'm going, where I'm at emotionally, where I'm at mentally, where I'm at spiritually, all of that relationally. And so I always encourage clients to do stuff like that, but it's kind of forced me to do that in my 40s, which has been really beneficial. And I can't begrudge it because it's been really fruitful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is good. It is a good practice. But I feel like what you're saying, in our 20s and our 30s, we didn't feel the need for that as much. So then we didn't slow down. We didn't pause in order to listen to all those things, but because we could keep going.
Right.
we could keep doing the things. Exactly. Right. Yes.
We had all the hormones we needed, and we slept.
Oh, the sleeping. Oh my gosh. I have never had trouble sleeping, and now I do. And it's real annoying.
It's
real annoying.
That's what was and has been the most challenging part of it is the sleep.
Yeah.
It's the same. My husband, we used to joke, I would hit the pillow and I was out.
Same.
Yeah. I'll be so tired and I'm just like, blink, blink. I just, it's a thing.
Right. Yeah. Super annoying. Okay. All you ladies out there.
Yes.
We're sorry. we're with you.
We feel you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. All right, Amy, let's get into our conversation. So I'm real excited to dive in, unpack all the things EMDR related. And when I think about EMDR as a whole, I have been a client of EMDR, and I often refer people out to EMDR because I just do talk therapy. And, like we were talking about, sometimes I will have clients that are coming for one thing and I'm like, you got a lot of trauma. And we can get stuck, in our talk therapy if that trauma isn't addressed in this specific way, just because of what EMDR offers our brain when we're talking about trauma. So tell us, what are some signs and symptoms that might indicate an individual should consider EMDR as part of their treatment?
Yeah, great question. And I don't want to dismiss talk therapy and the importance of
Yeah.
that, because
Right.
EMDR is a wonderful, powerful tool for trauma specifically, but it can't replace, all the other stuff that's also provided for you in regular talk therapy,
Mm.
process therapy. I think the kind of most important part is to have some of both. But
Yeah.
yeah, so for people who are maybe already in therapy or have had some therapy or maybe haven't at
Mm-hmm.
all, but just kind of feel like I've tried all the things and there's
Yeah.
just still these like really stuck points in my life,
Mm.
like either feeling stuck in certain emotional responses I have, even like
Yeah.
cognitive mental thought patterns that I can't seem to rewire or undo.
Mm.
Symptoms seem to just flare up, like anxiety, depression, anger, stuff like that, panic, that kind of seem to come out of either not nowhere, but just I can't control it. It feels uncontrollable. And so those are kind of be some good red flags, because some people have really high awareness of their own story and even some of their own trauma. And again,
Mm-hmm.
we want to help everyone understand that trauma does not have to mean classic PTSD textbook. You meet all these requirements.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a spectrum, like so many things in life. There's a
Sure.
spectrum of trauma. It's more about how you experience a really challenging event, right? And
Right.
if you
Right.
have the opportunity and the support to process that effectively, a lot of us have at least some of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so a lot of us know a lot about our story and have an awareness of it. And it's like, well, that's in the past. I don't really feel like it's like, okay. And that's probably true. But I wonder if there's some things that are happening today in life and you feel like you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
having an overreaction to that. Let's look
Right.
at that, because it might be connected to something 15 years ago that never had a chance to
Mm-hmm.
fully resolve. Let's just look at it and see if we can help
Mm-hmm.
clear that up a little bit.
Yeah. 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 Well, and so I like how you said that, because two people could experience the same thing, but if one person had, the ability to process it, the support, whatever, their impact, the impact that trauma had on that person might be different from another person that
Absolutely.
maybe didn't have those kind of resources at their fingertips during that time.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's really important for people to notice that, to not compare.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because it doesn't mean that either you're doing it right or doing it wrong. It was just your experience, and your experience is yours. It's nobody
Yes.
else's. And
Yes.
so just noticing that, can, I think, help guide people to this maybe next step if they notice that they're feeling stuck in an area.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because it's such a tendency of all of us to compare our experience to others.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear this so common. Oh, it's not as bad as so-and-so, or it's not like such and such happened to me. Well, I mean, first of all, you're dismissing
Yes.
yourself and you're minimizing your own experience. But
Mm-hmm.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
every experience is so unique to you and has
Yeah.
so many varied factors that affect it.
Yeah. Right.
And so we have to just kind of try to set that aside and
Yeah.
just look at, hey, we just want to look at your authentic experience. And for whatever reason, it's gotten kind of stuck and locked up. And let's just focus on that, letting
Yeah.
that have a chance to get cleared up, rather than
Yeah.
why me and not that person. We can get kind of stuck there a little bit.
Yeah. What do you recommend as far as like when somebody's ready? So these are like the signs and symptoms. But I also know from personal and professional experience, it's intense.
Yes.
It is different from talk therapy in that you're going in to do this work. Like, we're not going to chit chat about, your work stressors or your parenting stressors. You're going in to target the trauma. And I know that it's a progressive process.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that whole thing looks like. But I mean, how do you know that somebody's ready to do that work?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it is a important factor that we have to look at if we're going to consider EMDR. Because first and foremost, you want to assess just like their level of stabilization. Are they feeling generally stable in life? Do they have support?
Right.
Does work feel pretty stable? Does family life pretty stable? Not perfect, but not a constant intense stress or flaring things up for you. And so that's where I think it's such a helpful tool, because if that stuff's happening, let's just do some great therapy first. Let's just do some talk therapy first, or you do some of that work first with someone and then come to me. That's what I like too, is this option of you maintain your therapist for support and processing and all the things that are going on in the day-to-day life. And then you come to me and we'll target this one area once life feels stable enough to do so, because it is very disruptive. EMDR can be very disruptive. it's
Yes.
controlled and it's monitored and it's protocoled and structured in the sense that like we will manage that, and we have all kinds of strategies to make sure that person
Right.
stays as stable as possible. But if you think about what we're doing, we are consciously and willfully walking back into the hardest parts of your life
Right. Yes.
in a safe and controlled environment. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the way to do it. But that is going to feel to some degree disruptive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we will track like how to pace that out and what support looks like for you uniquely in that process. But yeah, so to kind of answer your question, Candace, is life in general pretty stable? And if someone is coming in and it's not very stable and they're needing help, and it's like, we know trauma is a piece, wonderful. Let's work on getting some regulation going
Right.
first.
Yeah.
Before we push you into the deep end here.
Right, right. Well, because I think this is good. I think EMDR has become much more of a household concept. I think a lot of people are talking about it in a really, really great and wonderful, powerful way, because I think it does do amazing things to our brain when we access it. But I don't want people to think, oh, I know I've got trauma, or I know I feel stuck, or I know all these symptoms and signs that Amy's talking about. That's me. I want to set the expectation of this is intense. And you kind of have to know that, right? Like you kind of have to know that going in, right. Because you are doing the work. And like you said, you are agreeing and willfully going into the hardest parts of your memory bank, right. So that you can rewire those memories. Right. And so that is real scary. And, and when I explain that to clients, when I kind of feel like they could be a candidate for EMDR, I kind of walk that with them and just kind of paint the picture of, okay, it's going to be very different than what you and I do in here. Right. And you're going to go in there and it's going to be targeted, and you're going to be talking about these things and walking through that again. And so if you don't feel ready for that, that's okay, right? Like maybe what the work we can do is get you ready for that, because, I can say, I really think I think once you do it, it's going to be so good for you. But I guess my point is, I don't want people to jump into it, get scared, get intimidated, and then say, nope, it's not for me. Right. I think we need to set expectations of what the process is like, because if you have been through trauma, it will be very helpful to you, but you have to kind of know what to expect and be ready for that. Like you said, have those regulation strategies, have that support, what you're kind of getting into.
Absolutely. And even being an EMDR therapist, you learn to, like, we talk about EMDR being more than just the eye movement parts of it.
Right.
It's so robust. It's so many different phases, but the first two to three phases is all of that, making sure a client is really ready. And part of knowing if you're ready is really fully understanding what we're going into. So so anyone that would be referred to me, we're going to spend time on me. Even if you've told me this client's ready, I'm going to assess them myself. Talk through it at length about, it's kind of like a major surgery. Like, you need to be informed. You need to know that this is going to be serious. We are going to be quite invasive, and it's going to be really good in the long run, but it's going to have quite a bit of a process to it and a healing recovery process to it, right? That kind of thing. What's amazing about EMDR, and I can say this very truthfully and honestly to clients, it is very efficient. And as a seven, I love it. I love that. It is amazing to me how quickly, once you get into the actual EMDR sets, how quickly that can happen. And so it's like, it's intense. And there should be naturally like a little bit of nervousness about that, but it's like, trust the process, that it actually moves pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's what's amazing about it.
Your brain it's like how our bodies are like want to heal. Our brain wants to heal. So it is like kind of, once you are at a stable enough place, your brain is just ready and it goes for it, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I think you even described it in your form. It loosens the stuck parts of our brain. And I love the picture, the imagery of that, because, I think especially in our trauma brains, like, things are held so tightly and we can get stuck in those patterns that just aren't working for us. And so to be able to open that up and loosen, that tightness, it just opens up so much opportunity for healing, right?
Yes. You can really feel transformed as a person, because especially if you're talking about early childhood trauma, think about if something traumatic happens at 5 and doesn't have a chance to fully loosen or process and digest, that takes hold in a way that can really shape how you view yourself, how you view the world, how you view relationships, how you view anything and everything. And you don't even
Yes.
realize it's doing it. It's
Right.
like it's kind of, I hate to use the word taints, but kind of tainting that all of those processes to some degree, and we aren't even really aware of it until
Right.
decades down the line, and you're like, why do I keep feeling this way about this thing, or keep
Mm-hmm.
reacting in this way to this person?
Yeah.
So right, and so it's so helpful because it's almost like you get a chance to kind of be more purely who you are meant to
Mm,
be without that sense of stuckness or lockdownness or like I'm hindered in some way,
yeah.
right?
Right. Right. Well, and those patterns get, I mean, if it's an early childhood thing, like that just becomes, like you said, who you are and how you operate. You don't even recognize that it could be
Right.
something different. It could be something more because that's just
Yes.
your automatic response. That's just what you've
Yes.
always known.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it quite literally we can now see, because we have so much knowledge and advancement around brain stuff, neurology, it literally hardwires in your brain, and
Mm-hmm.
then how you understand things like attachment and bonding and relationships and
Yeah.
all the things that make us human and make us uniquely ourseles. It's
Right.
affecting that and hardwiring on
Yeah.
that. So it's amazing to have this tool to get to kind of
Yeah.
unlock that and give your brain
Mm-hmm.
a chance to
Mm-hmm.
rewire, and
I
it does really
know.
quickly. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. The brain is amazing. It really is.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
fascinating.
If I were
Right.
to do it again and I had, maybe if I wasn't a seven, it's like I would go into neurology. It's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting how we are
Yeah.
really so fully connected, all of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, tell us. Okay, it's that segue to talk us through the science part of EMDR. Like, how does this work? What does that look like? Like, what is really
Yes.
happening to us when we're going through the EMDR process?
Okay. I'll do my best since I'm
Okay.
not a scientist or a doctor by any means, not even close, but I'll try to just make it understandable and accessible.
Okay.
So let's just imagine trauma happens, and for whatever reason, we don't have the support and resources to process that effectively. It gets kind of locked down or stuck quite literally in our brain and in our wiring and in our understanding of life. And so
Mm-hmm.
we want to give the brain a chance to set that free, like we've been talking about. And so the science is a woman years ago who's the founder of this, like in the 80s. I won't bore you with all the details, but basically figured out that what is happening in REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
phases of sleep where we have the most active dreams. That's our dream state. That is when we are kind of processing the things of the
Mm,
days and months and years, right?
okay.
They seem so
Right.
strange because the pieces of it that we can sometimes remember the next day, it's like, what was that?
Yeah.
But
Right.
sometimes if someone's had trauma and they have nightmares or flashbacks kind of in that state, it's like trying to push that processing
Mm,
through, and it can't. So she figured out that we can mimic the process that's happening with REM sleep while you're in a awake state. So we're not
yeah.
hypnotizing anyone. We want you to be consciously awake, but
Mm-hmm.
with the eye movement, so you set it up to where you kind of get back into that mental emotional space of that trauma, and we do the eye movement, so you're just kind of following my fingers back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mimicking REM sleep, and it's allowing the brain
Mm-hmm.
to have a chance in a safe, controlled environment to go back into that and actually have a chance to process it and digest it. Where before it didn't get a chance to process, it just got stuck. And
Right.
so you get stuck in everything that comes along with that experience, all the emotions that come along with it, all the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that come along with it, all the beliefs, all the physical sensations. Sometimes our access point into that experience is the physical experience. I don't know why
Yeah.
I go into this place, or I have hear this word and my stomach just turns into a knot. There's not any
Mm-hmm.
conscious memory of why. We can access it through that. It's amazing. The
Yeah.
body remembers, right? Your body holds the
Yes.
score. Your brain
Right.
remembers.
Right.
So it's just giving a chance to, like, okay, let's just let that process out. And it does, and we go back and check, and it's like, okay, that doesn't feel so disturbing, or that doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
so challenging anymore, or right? And my thoughts about that are changing. Okay, so the
Mm-hmm.
science is that your brain is literally like kind of unlocking a stuck
Mm-hmm.
point and able to rewire and connect to parts of your brain that hold adaptive material, which is like, the world can be safe, people are
Yeah.
good, I am lovable, I do have worth. where it's kind of been like isolated, or we're kind of imprisoned from all these good, true, positive things over here that some of you know, like some of your brain knows that stuff.
Right.
This can't access it because it's locked up here. So it's like if we open that jail door, that jail
Mm-hmm.
cell, and let it find its natural pathway to adapt the material, it will.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
a chance.
Right. Right. And giving it a way to do that. Well, and, thinking about, like you were mentioning, childhood trauma, I think I know the answer, but I want to ask the question anyway. Like, if it's something that's happened, long ago, is it harder to do that than something that's closer in proximity? Okay.
You'd be surprised. No.
Okay.
And trauma, again, is so unique to each person. So whether it happens at 5, whether it happens at 50, and you're coming into me at 55, it's like, it's still trauma. And your brain, that's what's so amazing to me, is part of the strategies of even accessing what's potentially at play here, what trauma. Sometimes it's not even, you don't even have any conscious memory of it, right? So, but your brain is holding on to it for you, so it can get there. It can, and in an EMDR work, we have to kind of go towards the first and the worsts, which is hard, but that's because that has laid the foundation for anything and everything else that came after that.
Okay.
And so we are kind of looking for, like, is there anything under the age of 10 that we need to be aware of that you maybe never would have just defined as trauma? But if there's something like an attachment wound, or like I felt ignored or abandoned by a parent, or I just felt like that relationship was ruptured in some way, or a move happened. It was a good thing, but it was a move, and I lost all this sense of connection and stability for a period of time. And then we moved on and it was fine. Well, there's still just this like blip there that we need to maybe go back.
Right.
And so, yes, to kind of more directly answer your question, yes, we can, even if it's way back. I mean, some therapists are EMDR therapists, and they're doing stuff that maybe occurred in utero for you.
Wow. Yeah.
That kind of blows my mind. That's way beyond what but we can go way back because your brain is storing all of that to some degree.
Well, and it's moldable, right? Like, and this is what this strategy, this technique does, is it loosens that up. So like what you're saying, doesn't matter when it happened.
Right.
It's empowering your brain to loosen up those stuck parts, to give it an option to adapt to maybe a different part of your brain that can say things like the world is safe, or people love me. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Really
Okay.
Interesting.
So interesting. It really is. It's so crazy. So in the process, when I went through EMDR as a client, what my therapist did was, we first talked about like a trauma that I could easily identify as a trauma, but it didn't feel traumatic to me. Right. Okay. And then we progressed to like the actual trauma I was there for. Is that how you do it? Is that how most people do it? Or
yeah, I mean, you're going at it from multiple, directions, in that what are they bringing in, like what's causing them to want to come in. There's probably some type of symptomology that's coming,
right? Right.
Anxiety, anger, depression, whatever. I can't sleep, I'm having nightmares, whatever. So we're looking at symptoms, and then we're looking at general timeline, like what are they aware of in their own personal history from birth to now that has been either traumatic or challenging. And so we're getting a history, we're getting a full context of that person while being aware of symptoms. With those symptoms, what are kind of your internal narratives? What are your personal beliefs that you're holding that maybe aren't helpful and maybe aren't actually true? So we're just kind of assessing and kind of information gathering about all of those things. And what's so wonderful about EMDR, it's so like kind of robust in that even if we think it's about this thing that happened at 10, we'll look at that and we'll identify that. But if it doesn't, so two things, we can start there. And if it doesn't seem to be clearing like we want it to be clearing, we have techniques to just search for something that was maybe earlier that doesn't seem at all maybe even logically connected, or a reason. We have a way to kind of go back a little further and just kind of ask your brain, ask your body and your experience, is there maybe some things earlier that you just hadn't even realized? And my experience is every time we can find something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so is that loosening things up for them to be able to identify that? Is that, or is it just like, let's really focus in and work backwards to find that other piece?
Maybe both, maybe some
Okay.
of both. I think
Yeah.
just like what we offer in therapy in general around a safe space and an openness to our
Mm.
own self and our own story is there and present. So that's really valuable. I don't want to minimize that. And just the kind of strategic and direct way we ask and go about looking back, the body
Okay.
just tells us and is ready to tell
Yeah.
us most of the time if
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
just listening and tuning in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why EMDR is a place to do that, because again, you know what you're going into in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, right? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know that that's what you're going in to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and having that intention. I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, and I think for clients too, if they're going in with that intention, they're much more attuned to
Yes.
that, right? Like, they're going to be listening to those parts of their body that cue
Mm-hmm.
them that they're having a trauma response. And you know, a lot of times they may already know that piece, right? And so it just gives a space for them to really just focus on
Yes.
that in the
Yeah,
time with
because
you.
if you're helping them in that process, like the work you're already doing, Candace, around like awareness, language
Mm-hmm.
for it,
Yeah.
okay, this is my response to things. Let's figure out why that response is there. And we can start to identify, okay, where that started. Like, what's the origin story of that
Mm-hmm.
kind of maladaptive thought pattern or emotional
Mm-hmm.
reaction or whatever, or overreaction maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There's already kind of like they're gaining awareness and insight into
Right.
themselves around, okay. And then once you have all that already laid out, it's like, okay, I wonder if you could hold all that and just let your brain kind of think back to maybe when that happened in an earlier state. And almost every
Right.
time they're like, oh, here. I
Here,
never
I
would have
remember
thought that.
this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like, okay, let's start with the present and know what
Yes.
you're aware of now and
Yes.
work backwards and try to
Yes.
remember when maybe one of your earlier memories of when you responded that way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of times there's traumas that happen when we're adults. So it's not all, we're not always talking
Right.
about early childhood stuff, right? And so that's a little bit different because if they'd had a pretty stable upbringing and there's what we call like a single event trauma, like they get
Mm-hmm.
into a horrific car accident or something, and then they're like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't drive, I'm too afraid to drive, or I can't go through
Right.
that same intersection again. And so I mean, we still do the work, but we figure out there's nothing that's like unprocessed before this 25-year-old's experiencing the accident,
Right.
but we
Right.
kind of make sure that we make sure there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is just about, I had this horrific thing happen to me and I can't seem to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. So then it's just about what has happened more in the present or modern day
Mm-hmm.
for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what about misconceptions? Like you, like you said,
Yeah.
we're not hypnotizing people. I've definitely heard that. Like, what are they going to do to me?
Right.
So what are some
Yes.
misconceptions just for people
Okay.
to be aware of?
I love that. So first and foremost, I'm not hypnotizing you. No one should be, if they're saying they're doing MDR, should be hypnotizing you. It's,
Okay. Yeah. Right.
we're not erasing any of your memories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're not allowing it to be removed from your conscious
Mm-hmm.
memory. It's quite the opposite, actually. We very much want you to stay conscious in the present. We actually have to watch for that and track for that, because when we're talking about trauma, we can very easily get lost in that. And we don't want a client to get lost in that trauma. We want them to be very much present in my office with me. And part of the eye movements, yes, it's like initiating the memory networks in your brain,
Mm-hmm.
like REM sleep does. But the actual fingers in front of their face keeps them in the present. They have to focus on. It's kind of like, it's called dual attention. You're paying attention both in the present and you're paying attention to what's happened in the past. And I am tracking as the therapist to make sure they're still at least partially in the present with me. And if they're not, we are going to stop and we're going to ground and we're going to talk about, hey, do you feel the couch? Do you hear the air? Do you hear my voice? Where are we? Right? We want to make sure you stay. We don't want you to get lost in that trauma, because that's going to be more like a trance state, more like a hypnotic state, excuse me.
Yeah.
And we don't want that, because we're trying to actually stay present and have our conscious brain, because that's where your adaptive material actually resides, and you need it to catch it. You need it to get there. We use the analogy of the train a lot. We want to get on the train and the train tracks. So we can get from the stuck place and leave it and find the adaptive material over here.
Right.
So
right.
So we're not hypnotizing you. You stay conscious. We want you to be very present.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What are some other things that you hear that clients are? We've already kind of touched on, like, it is intense. Like,
it is intense.
It's not a quick fix. It's, it is effective, I will say.
Right. Right.
I'm more of a believer every time I do it. It will work. It's so unique to each person. It may take a little bit of time. it's not a silver bullet in the sense of, like you said, you can't just walk in and do EMDR and you're done. It's not like I'm giving you an adjustment like in a chiropractor.
Yeah,
Right, not adjusting your brain and then you get to go about your day. I think people need to realize you need to have time and space to be able to give attention to this.
Right. Do you find that people, like, if you've had a client that did EMDR and it was effective and then they go off, do they ever need to come back for like an adjustment, so to speak?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true of talk therapy, right?
Sure.
In general,
right.
That's when you get through a lot of the work and they're feeling really good and stable. And then it's like, okay, 6 months or a year down the line, they're like, hey, I feel like this thing came up. It flared a little bit. Can we just have a little bit of a touch up? Yes, it can be like that. You hope that you've done it most thoroughly on the front end.
Yeah.
EMDR is working on past material, present material, and then we want to project into the future so that you can even help your brain already grab that adaptive material about future events. So you hope that you have very thoroughly processed all of that material, but stuff happens and maybe we don't get every little thread. What's cool about EMDR too is that it generalizes. So that just means we don't have to work on every single trauma point in your life.
Sure.
Especially for people who have complex trauma, you may have to hit quite a few, but once you start to do the work and it starts to find that adaptive material, it can generalize to all the other little pieces of your brain. It kind of starts to activate all of that together. So you start to find, like, we worked on this target, say we're looking at a timeline, and we worked on this one at 7, but I really thought the one at 10 was the big one. But now that we've worked on the 7 one, now that we look at the 10, it's not quite so disturbing anymore.
Right.
We still need to probably do some work around that thing at 10, but it's going to be a little faster and easier. And then we get to the thing at 24 and it's like, that's barely even, I mean, I can remember it, but it's like, I have some distance from it and it's not so in my face. I don't feel like it's consuming me. I have space from it. I feel like I have control over it. Those are what we're looking for. Yeah.
Well, and it is like a buildup of the skill, the strategy, or whatever our brain is doing, right? Because then you get to that trauma that maybe is closer in proximity and realize, oh, like I don't feel the same as I used to. And it's because of the work that you've done here.
Yes.
Yeah. So cool.
And that builds in a sense of success for the client and momentum because especially when we're talking about complex PTSD or you've had early childhood trauma and then maybe a stable period and then something else happened as an adult that, dysregulates you and creates all that to surface. And maybe the harder thing, because you're more consciously aware of it, is the thing that's closer, like more in your adult life. You can build in that sense of, hey, this works. So I know that we have to walk back into this really hard thing. But remember how we did that and how you felt before and then how you have felt afterward and how that has been consistent. You're right. It's like you can help the client recognize this is hard. This is hard work that we have to do. We have to, like I said, face the hardest things that we've ever experienced in our life. But I mean, I have to kind of provide a sense of like, trust me initially.
Oh yeah.
But then they can literally trust the process. Trust the process. Once they've done it, and it can help them face that really hard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
for sure.
I mean, and it sometimes takes time to sometimes we can clear some stuff in a session or two. And sometimes have clients even currently that it's months of work because it's just hard stuff we're having to work through.
Yeah. I think some of the most exciting and powerful moments when I think back to clients that I have referred to EMDR and then came back when we'll be in session and talking about like maybe just something that has created a certain response for them in the past. And they go, why am I not more upset about this?
Yes.
Like, I feel like I should be much more anxious. And it's so funny because I'll just kind of like give them some space and they'll say, that's probably the EMDR. And I'm like, probably. Yeah. It's just so, I don't know. It's so cool to even see that light bulb moment for them when they're expecting a certain reaction and they realize that they don't have it because of the work that they've done. It's so amazing. I love it.
It is so amazing. I had that just the other day. I had a client, we were kind of just wrapping up EMDR and she'd had some stuff come up, normal stuff in life.
Yeah.
And she's talking to me, basically describing how regulated she has stayed.
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
but kind of like, I'm not sure if this worked. And I'm like, well, here's what I hear that you
Yes.
did do and you didn't do. And that seems different than what I have from my
What?
notes from 2 months ago. She's like,
Right.
you're right.
Yes.
I stayed
Oh, I
calm and
know.
I stepped away. I mean, all these like things that she can now feel capable of doing. Because we, in talk therapy, we talk a lot about skills, right? Of like
Right.
strategies to help you cope or whatever, resolve conflict, all the things that we do, all good, valuable work. But if you can't access that because trauma is blocking you from that, it feels so defeating. It's like, I want to be able to do that, but my brain, it's like, but they don't even have the language to say, but my brain won't let me do that. And then on the flip side of it, oh my gosh, I can still, like, you still have to use the skills. You still have to,
Right.
like, it doesn't solve all your problems. You still have to make choices that are healthy for you and your relationships and stuff, but it allows you to do that more effectively. Right.
Well, because I mean, what I notice in clients after they've done EMDR, they are listening much more to those body responses. They're recognizing those cues and knowing what that's attached to because of the work that they've done and the trauma that they've processed. They realize, oh, that's a trauma response. When my heart does that, or when my muscles do that, or whatever, I know what that is.
Yes.
And they're also able to say something like, but I'm not going through the same thing, right? Like they're able to decipher this isn't the same sort of situation that's triggered that before, and then able to use the skills and access that.
Exactly, because like even as you're describing, not only do they have awareness of it, they have language for it. It's not hijacking their brain. They have a sense of control over it, and I can manage this rather than it's managing me.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Okay. So, I mean, we've kind of already talked in a roundabout way how EMDR supplements talk therapy, but I'd like to hear a little bit more. And I mean, because you do talk therapy and EMDR, so how do you as a therapist maybe even assess or present, the idea of integrating EMDR with your own clients if they come to you for talk therapy? How does that work?
It's been an interesting integration process since I already had an established practice as I was learning EMDR. And so now, I'll kind of work my way backwards. So now when I have a new client, I'm always now looking at it from more of an EMDR lens, or more of a trauma lens, I should say. Yeah. And knowing that I have this tool that we can use and can be really effective. It's not going to replace talk therapy and building rapport and hearing the story. All of that's still part of EMDR. But now I have that kind of lens by which I'm looking at any new client. Similarly, all the clients I had already had established, it is kind of going back through the pieces that we have worked on that maybe still feel like there's work to do, or it still feels like a little bit stuck, or just like, I just don't feel enough progress in this one area. And there's some frustration there. Well, let's go back and reevaluate it and use this tool now.
Yeah.
And some clients are a little bit hesitant, and that's okay. And it's an ongoing, what we call an ongoing informed consent, where I'm never going to force this strategy on anyone, obviously. And we're going to talk a lot about what it is and what it can offer you while we're still doing lots of good therapeutic work. Like it's not my only tool. It's just one. And so if anyone who's listening and feels like, I think I need some therapy, I think I have some trauma we can start slow. It doesn't have to be a fast process. We don't have to jump right into that. We want to make sure you feel really like firm around your understanding as much as possible with that, what that looks like. There's a lot of things we can do to just kind of prepare a person for the actual kind of trauma processing steps, which is if it's an 8-step process, if that's 4 through 7, there's a lot of other steps and work that we can do that's beneficial to the client and helpful and therapeutic and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, and you you present differently when you're doing EMDR than talk therapy. How is that for you?
Yeah, that's interesting, especially when it's they're being referred by a therapist just for EMDR, which I really value that. I mean, I love it all, but that's to some degree, I really love that because they already have that established support and have already done quite a bit of work. And so it's like they're primed and ready to go, and we can, in quite a direct way, like jump right into it. Okay, so this is going to be very different, not very different, but somewhat different. I mean, it's still me. It's still, I don't change my personality necessarily, but because EMDR is much more structured and the therapist really wants to take a back seat in a lot of ways and let the brain take control. And we're just kind of monitoring and providing structure and some little bit like, we don't actually want to interact as much. We don't want to have too much talk therapy in the middle because it's getting to a different part of your brain and we want to stay in the memory part.
Right.
So I have to explain that to clients, especially
Yeah.
clients who
Yeah.
have been with me for a while. And
Right.
it's still me. It's still the same feel. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm going to have a little bit different role. And I quite literally have to like change where I sit.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of have to, because you can use buzzers, or people sometimes have a light bar that you follow with your eyes, but I like to use my hand, which is about a foot from that client's face. So I have to be sitting pretty close,
Yeah. Yeah.
offset to them. And so I have to move. The chair I typically sit in is too big to move. So so it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like that allows us this like shift.
So you sit in a different chair, not only for like proximity, but that probably helps to like represent, okay, we're doing something different today. We're doing something different in here. This is different work.
Yes.
That's so fascinating.
I didn't really catch that initially, like the need to do that, but how much it does help just kind of pivot into a different.
Oh, I bet.
Because even with the EMDR clients, even if they're just coming in from EMDR, we always spend a little bit of time just like, how are you? What's been happening in the last week?
Sure.
Like, I'm always assessing for like stability and like, how's your processing been since the last session? Because you do an EMDR session, and in the time between the next session, your brain will continue to process and digest that information along with other stuff that may be connected to it. So we are also tracking, what have your symptoms been like? Because to some degree, depending on the situation, symptoms can worsen. We want to be aware of that and tracking that and offering support for that. And what is the content? Like if we cleared or got to a certain place in the work that we did in one session, if it's kind of like on a memory network, it's going to maybe move to the next, either part of that trauma or the next kind of trauma in the timeline that's similar or connected.
Yeah.
And so we want to be tracking, where is your brain already naturally going? And we want to get in line with that, be in step with that. So we do spend a lot of, at least 15, 20, 30 minutes of the session just touching base, what's been happening, how are you doing? Because if someone comes in and we're expecting to do EMDR, but they're like, I just lost my job, or my mom just died, or I'm like, okay, this may not be the day to do that.
Right.
Let's just spend some time helping you stabilize around that. So we always have to kind of be aware of that.
Yeah. Now, are EMDR sessions longer than a typical therapy session? Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you said that. I meant to say that earlier. Yes, I find we need at least 90 minutes, but 2 hours is kind of my sweet spot, because it gives you a lot of room. And it allows you to, like, if you're moving along, like, let's do as much as we can while you're here.
Right.
And because you do spend some time at the front end processing, and then you also want to always build in time at the end for regulating and calming and grounding and all of that. You want to make sure you've got a good amount of time. Yeah. But you're also always managing like their capacity and their brain energy, and because it's intense work. So it's like, we may have scheduled for 2 hours and we're 90 minutes in, but we've kind of coming to a natural stopping point. Yeah. And you look like you're exhausted. It just gives you that flexibility to.
Yeah. I like that. What is your recommendation for people to just be aware of after EMDR sessions? Like you said, I mean, just their emotional capacity, the exhaustion. And I hear a lot about that from clients that are doing EMDR, just like wears them out. So what is your recommendation for people just to be aware of? How can they take care of themselves well after those sessions or while they're undergoing it?
Right. So that's a great question. So that's part of even what we talk about initially before we really get into it. Is like how and when we schedule those appointments, like be aware of their own personal schedule and life stuff, and because you want to be able to have some space afterwards around it, because it is very mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting and taxing. And it is like, you're going to need some time. Like a lot of clients go home and take a nap, even people who don't nap. So you want to just build in some margin for that kind of thing. Like, don't do it right before you have to go pick up your kids, or don't do it right before you have to go into a big meeting at work. You want to, like, things like hydrate. You want to be able to give yourself time to just veg out and sleep, or process, like journal, or some clients like to do art, or just go for a walk. So, and then it's also talking around, like, just the awareness around the next few days, because we assume your brain will keep processing. So what you might have more vivid dreams, because we're kind of activating what REM is already wanting to do. And so be aware of some dream stuff, be aware of just like memories that are surfacing that you either weren't consciously aware of or just haven't thought about in a long time, because it's one of two things. Either it's allowing it to probably finally process, or it's somewhere we need to go. It's like floating to the surface because we need to probably address it. One of two things.
Okay.
So that symptoms, if you start to have anxiety or some other symptomology that we need to just be aware of and figure out what's causing that, because it's also an indicator of something's coming up. It's giving us some clues of where we need to go.
Yeah. Well, and so it sounds like if people notice that outside of session, that's really important to mention to their EMDR therapist.
Yes.
Because it's an indicator.
Yes. And any decent EMDR therapist should prepare them for that on the front end and then ask about it every session.
Yeah.
And it kind of, thankfully, it's somewhat helpful to clients that even though they're having, like, even though the symptom of anxiety is still coming up or comes up, it's like, at least I have context for it now more. At least I can understand why it exists and it has a reason and a purpose rather than just like, I don't know why I'm panicking. You know, that can be half of the battle is the why, you know?
And that's it right there. Like when people have a context, even if they still feel the same, they look at it differently, and that and that then feels different, right? Like it may feel like the same symptoms, but with the context, it's a different experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's something that is important for people to hear is, and that's, I mean, I think therapy in general, a lot of times it feels worse before it feels better. Right.
Sure.
But again, when we put it in the context of it's because you're processing something in a way that you've never processed it before. Exactly. And so you're responding to it differently. And it doesn't mean that it's now all of a sudden harder. It's just different. Right. And to be expecting that.
Right. Right, because it part of what we have to do in helping, like kind of the psychoeducation piece is you're facing something you've never faced like this head on and this intentionally. And so when something has been compartmentalized, that's the word that people often know, it's been kind of locked up in a little box somewhere that I don't have to, because I'm avoiding that thing because I don't feel like I have the capacity or the resources or the skills to deal with it. Well, now we're saying, let's pull that box out. Let's open it up. Let's pull all the scary, hurtful stuff out in a way that's like, okay, I'm willfully, like I said before, walking into this, but I am going to allow myself to feel all those feelings that I've had to lock away, think all those scary thoughts that I've had to put into, have all that physical, and we're going to intentionally walk and let those things kind of free, let them out in a structured, safe, structured way. And amazingly, they're like, and then it could just go. It's like, it just like needed to be released.
Yes. Right.
Like, yes. I've been haunted by this thing that's been so stuck. And if I can just like, okay, I see it. Okay, it's gone. Like, you did it. You did it.
And I want people to hear that, because a lot of times I will hear if I suggest EMDR or mention the word trauma, they're like, but that's in the past. Like I don't want to go back there. Like how is that going to be productive? Right. But then the more I talk to them, I'm like, oh well, this is just become their coping strategy. How much stuff have they left back there? And just because you're trying to pretend like it didn't happen and that you think that you don't have emotions about it, that doesn't actually make it true. Right. And so like what you're saying, if we can just unlock it, then really it's just a matter of releasing it and giving it space so that it's no longer locked up in our brains. Like it just because you want it to not have happened doesn't mean that your brain is gonna, operate that way. Yeah.
Right. And it is scary. It is scary to think about having to face that and feel all those feelings. But I love that you say, just give it space. I say that a lot. All we're doing is just noticing that feeling in your body or that emotion. Let's just notice it. Let's give it space. Let's honor it. Let's honor the experience that you've had because you had it. And ignoring it's not helping you. It's not serving you. But if you can see it, and because we're always working towards integration, we always want someone to help their story, help them face their story and understand their story and let it to integrate to be them, their whole story, right?
Yeah.
Good, bad, neutral. And so part of that is like, hey, let's just notice that and give that space and feel that. Let's feel it. Let's feel it wherever it is in your body. Let's feel that emotions, right? And then it's like, okay. Yeah. Because it's almost just like, okay, well, that didn't kill me. It didn't. That was rough. Yeah. Like that was terrible. I don't, I don't want to do that all the time, but that so it builds in a sense of like confidence around like, and let's keep doing this now. And as we move forward, like, hey, when stuff comes up, let's just feel that. Let's notice it. So it's training, right? It's training. Like we were talking about just tuning to our own bodies of like, okay, I gotta feel this. We're kind of masters, I think, as Americans, maybe, I don't know, globally, but I think Americans, especially masters of just avoidance and shutting things out and distracting ourselves.
Yes.
Right. But then I'm like, why do I have all these physical ailments and why am I sick all the time and why am I anxious and I can't sleep? Right. It's like, okay, well, let's explore that.
Well, and I think what you're saying too is like our emotions don't have to be intimidating, right? I think they often can be for people that have tried to avoid them and pretend like they aren't there. But looking at them as informants, it is informing you of something. Yes. And information is power. And so when you know what that information is, then a lot of times we can find something for you to do about that. Absolutely. And that feels good. Whatever that thing is, it at least feels good to know that there's something I can do. And sometimes it's just giving space to it, like you said.
Yes. Because we really try, one of the strategies we use when we're like wrapping up a session and we're trying to ground and calm and all of that is this strategy called containment. And it's similar to compartmentalization, but it's different in that compartmentalization is avoidance, which actually is coming from a place of powerlessness, right? I feel like I have any power over that. That is so scary to me. I cannot even look at that. Where containment is, I'm aware of this thing that is very disruptive to me and very disturbing to me. I'm aware it's there. I'm trying to work on that. I don't want to do that right this second. So I'm going to contain it for now. Yeah. And I'll choose when I can engage with that again. Yeah. I don't want to engage with that right now. Right. So it starts to give you a sense of empowerment around you have awareness of your own story, that it's there. We're not just locking it away, and we will get to have some choice around when that, because the more you feel like you have some choice, it doesn't feel quite so like panicky and anxiety inducing around like, I have no control over this. Let's start to practice some control over it.
I like that word. I haven't heard that explained in that way.
Okay.
So I like that. Containment. Because I will use the word compartmentalize, but but in a good way.
Right. The positive way of that.
Right. But you're right. Like compartmentalizing usually is avoidance. But containment, I like that is like a different word for a more, I don't know, a healthier version of that.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because there is so many things that come up, emotions and stuff that's like, that feels unbearable to me right now, but there's something different about like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to ignore that versus like, I see that. I'm aware of that.
I know it's there.
Really disruptive. I don't feel like I have the capacity to engage with that fully right now, so I'm going to tuck it away for now. But it's that's a way that I can access.
And that's a way to honor and take care of yourself well. But we have to acknowledge it. Ignoring it is not taking care of ourselves. Acknowledging it and saying, for another time, like I know it's there. I see it in the corner. And I just can't, I'm just choosing, right? I'm choosing not to do that right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, Amy, anything that we didn't touch on that you think?
I feel like we did really good about covering everything.
Can you think of anything that we didn't get to?
I mean, gosh, we covered most everything. And the only thing I'm just kind of one last thought around for someone who's listening and just feels a little bit either stuck in their own journey or feels like maybe even they tried EMDR before and it didn't work or it wasn't helpful for whatever reason. I just want to encourage that person to not to give up on themselves and their story. Yeah. And there is resolve for you out there. And call me and I'll help you find a good therapist. It doesn't have to be me, right? Let's find you the support and the help that you need because you deserve to give yourself that gift of feeling free from all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the best way for someone to find an EMDR therapist?
I would specifically look for, EMDR trained is kind of the base level and that's good. That's what I am now. And I'm, working towards certified. So I would say, look for an EMDR certified therapist. I would look for the years of experience that they have. Okay. I also think just like recognizing some of the other modalities that they might use, like attachment or, some of those things that just kind of help reinforce this whole, like what trauma is. It's not always just like this event that happens to us, but sometimes it's even just relational trauma where an attachment wound is broken and that in and of itself is traumatic. So any good experienced therapist who's been licensed for years and is certified in EMDR, I would
trust.
Look for. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, what about self-care for you? What do you do to take care of yourself well?
Well, currently it's attuning to my body to see what kind of exercise to do and not do.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, really, that's a big piece. I mean, I even though I'm a 7, as I just am a mom and an adult, it's like my energy is a precious resource and we have to really be protective of that. Right. So, finding margin, making sure I have margin in my days to just relax and, I think I probably even said in my little thing I filled out, like I'll watch an episode of Friends, something
Yes.
just kind of silly, mindless, puts around the house. Yeah, getting exercise, whatever that looks like, making sure I'm having time with my husband to connect, or family, friends, whatever. Staying spiritually grounded and connected, that's really important to me as well.
Yeah.
But nothing, you know, earth-shattering as far as brand new, but yeah.
Well, what are your exercises of choice these days? Like, what have you noticed works, or that I don't know, what have you been doing?
So it's kind of I have kind of three things. So I walk a lot more than I used to walk, because I was a runner too. I used to run.
Same.
Not as long term, not distance, but
I've been walking a lot more. Yeah.
And do some weights, and then a lot more stretching than I've ever wanted to do before, because takes so much time, and you have to be patient, but it really pays off. And I used to hate riding the bike, but at least twice a week I try to go to Hot Works, which is a gym that has like sauna and infrared, and that is so restorative. So I'll ride the bike somewhat intensely in there, and it just feels so good.
Feels good.
My body.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about that Hot Works place for that very reason.
I'm sold. I couldn't do it every day. It's not a workout you want to do. Like I said, I maybe do twice a week. Yeah. But it's as much for the infrared and the sauna, like the detoxing, and it really helps your muscles recover. And so that's been really great.
Yeah, nice.
So those two. And then we have an elliptical at the house. So sometimes I just jump on that. Yeah. That's more of like, I need to work out, but I don't really want to. I can just jump on
yeah. Maybe you watch an episode of Friends while you do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I need that like some sort of thing I can look forward to. Like if I'm walking, is there a podcast episode I've been saving?
Yeah, we got to incentivize it a little bit, because the motivation's not there.
Sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But you started walking a lot too as a runner.
Yeah, well, I've noticed like I've started to walk when my kids are at soccer. So it's easier to fit that in, where I used to work, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want to be working right now. Yes. And so, I mean, their practices are an hour and a half, so I can get a good 4 miles in just walking around. Yeah. And because I think before, like when I was younger, I was like, that doesn't feel efficient, right? Like I'm gonna have to walk a whole lot longer, and I don't get a sweat, or, I don't feel like it's good enough, but if I could just convince myself that that's good enough, which that's the process I'm in right now, I probably would get up and walk, because I like doing it. I've noticed for me in exercise, it's important for me to, like, being outside is really important for me, I think. Like, I don't know. I've just noticed, like, if I can spend some time outside, I'm a better, nicer person. For sure. So I think if I can just convince my brain that just get out there and walk, because sometimes I just feel like, is it? I should be running. No, it's fine. You can walk. So I'm in a process of convincing myself of that.
I might just be like one step ahead of you in that, just briefly, because it's convincing myself that my body actually doesn't need the adrenaline and cortisol push that the hard workout. They don't. It actually is more damaging to my body now than it was at 30, 35. Right? But when you've done it for decades, though, it's like, I want that, like, that endorphin rush,
right?
And all that's
and
great,
the challenge, and I'm not interested in that
too
anymore.
Much on the other end,
right? Yeah, so true.
That's a whole mental shift.
Yeah. Well, and the weightlifting, I've tried to be a lot more cognizant of that piece, because we need to at this age, and as women, and because I know when I would run, I would have no muscle, like, because I'm just running so much. Right. And so, again, like, my body's changing as a result of that. And so that's, interesting.
It is interesting. I love all those funny memes for, like, us in the 40s. It's like, eat protein, eat fiber, lift weights, walk with a weighted vest. It's like, I can't do all these things.
It's too much. Can I do one? Sometimes. Exactly. Yeah.
One a day.
Yes. There you go. All right, Amy. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And educating us. You had so much good information. I hope people are encouraged. Yes. They don't feel intimidated by this, that if you feel like this is something that would be good for you in your healing journey, reach out to me, reach out to Amy. Like, we will help you get connected to somebody, because, we both value this work and think it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing what our brains can do when we have the right tools at our fingertips. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. Hopefully, same. I just hope people can hear it's really accessible and a really helpful tool.
Yeah.